We are live. David, take it away, crypto buddy.
All right. The Satoshi Show is a private consultant research and educational firm specializing in cryptocurrency and helping our audience develop multiple streams of passive rewards. We discuss passive and active programs that can be used to leverage your crypto and fiat into seven-figure passive streams of rewards. We educate our audience on how to leverage their capital as well as other people's money, OPM. While we strive to be entertaining, we have done our homework. My name is David Chandler, and my partner is Troy Rader. Troy is a great communicator, a great marketer, and have built teams in the thousands. He got started in crypto in 2016 doing mining, trading, running masternodes, and consulted on various crypto projects. So without further ado, my partner, Troy Rader, our trusted crypto Satoshi buddy.
Yeah, actually, my name's Satoshi Nakamoto. I don't want to lay claim to it since everybody else is. Guys, David's no slouch either. He's an IT guy by trade. He's actually not just an IT guy. He runs a team of about 30 IT guys. And when the experts get in trouble, they call him. But his real claim to fame is he's been at the top of several household name network marketing companies, built huge teams. He knows this business inside and out. And so with that, we're going to jump right into the show. Can you see my screen, David?
Now I can, yes.
Right on. This is the Satoshi Show, guys. We're going to have some fun, but we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency. This is our disclaimer. It says we do our due diligence. There's risks in business. You should do your due diligence. Anything we say is for educational purposes only. All right, guys. Why Bitcoin? Why cryptocurrency? I'll tell you why. Because Bitcoin is better money than money. Back in 2016, I fell in love with Bitcoin. I do trading. I trade the commodities market, futures and options, the stock market. I trade Forex. I even trade cryptocurrencies. I trade anything I can get my hands on. And I was trying out a brokerage, an offshore brokerage in London. So I had my bank wire $500 over. They charged me $50. That's 10% of $500. They justified it by telling me that $25 was for a wire fee, but the other $25 was because it was an offshore wire. Well, 10% to send my own money. I knew there had to be a better way to do it. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was it took 5 days for that money to arrive. And when it arrived at the bank in London, the brokerage wasn't notified. They didn't know they received it. It was lost in the banking system. So I had to spend more time calling my bank, asking my bank what to do, which was basically nothing. I was helpless. I had to call up the brokerage and say, my bank can't do anything. You'll have to contact your bank. You'll have to fish it out, which they did. 6 months later, that same brokerage was accepting Bitcoin. So I sent $500 in Bitcoin over. It cost me $1.86. I'm sorry, $1.68. Cost me $1.68 versus $50. Same amount of money. The best part was it got there instantly. I didn't have to worry whether the brokerage received it or not, because in a Bitcoin transaction, you get a transaction hash that shows it's proof positive that it was delivered to the correct wallet. So I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. It didn't have to go through the treasury. I didn't have to have IDs at a bank. I just sent my Bitcoin over. It's a better way to transact. Instant versus 5 days, $1.68 versus $50 for the same amount of money. It's just a better way to do business. And that's where I fell in love with Bitcoin. It's got all the traits of money. It's verifiable, it's fungible, it's portable, it's durable, it's divisible, and it's scarce, but it's also fast, guys. And I like it. With the Bitcoin Lightning Network now, It's even faster, and it even costs less than it did back in 2016. I could probably make that same transaction today for about 50 cents, and it'd arrive even quicker, within minutes. Now, we don't recommend working for dollars. It's not a good game plan. Why? Because the dollar goes down in value every year. In fact, the last 3 years, the real estimates, not what you hear on CNN and MSNBC on the fake news, but the real estimates are 10% per year. The dollar's losing 10% a year. Why? Because they keep printing it. Just last month, they printed up another, I think I heard $1.7 trillion. I mean, it's insane. Now, working for Bitcoin makes perfect sense. Why? Because it's always going up in value. Well, people say it's volatile, as you can see by this chart. It is volatile. You can't disagree with that. But since 2009, it's made an upward trend. If you take a look at that, it's going up, guys. Now, sure, it goes up and down on its way up, but when it makes a low, here's a low right here, and here's a low right here. See, the lows are higher. It makes higher lows, and then it makes higher highs. When this goes on up, it's going to probably make a peak up here, and then, come back down, maybe make a low here, and then maybe make a peak up here. Yeah, that sounds crazy, but we're going to get into that. If you would have invested Bitcoin 7 years ago and held it, you would have made an 85,794% return on your money. Now, let's put that another way. In 2012, Bitcoin didn't have a lot of value. You could put a few groceries in a cart. 2013, you could fill a cart. 2014, you couldn't contain a cart with a Bitcoin. And by the end of this year, 2020, you're going to be able to buy, if we're correct, you're going to be able to buy a Lamborghini Countach with a single Bitcoin. We're going to put that another way here, guys. A $20 bill back in 98 could fill a grocery cart. If you were a careful shopper, you could do it. Some of you have done that. In 2005, you couldn't get, maybe half a cart. In 2014, a $20 bill put just, a couple bags of salad in there. And by the end of this year, with the inflation, with what's going on, a $20 bill will have no value. Now, you take that against the Bitcoin. Bitcoin gains value every year, guys. That's why you want it. I always say follow the money. Take a look at Tim Draper. He's a billionaire investor. Tim Draper quit stock market. He knew what was coming. He got out of the stock market 6 months ago. I've met him in person. I've talked to him. I've also talked to John McAfee on the right. John McAfee says, run the effing numbers. If Bitcoin's less than 2 million by the end of 2020, then mathematics itself is a flawed disappointment. What if he's right? Tim Draper, on the other hand, says it'll be worth 250,000 in 2 years. If either one of them's even half right, and we've got a big pile of Bitcoin stored up, we're going to be doing all right. And so will you if you stick with us. Now, why would Bitcoin hit $2 million by the end of the year? Well, Bitcoin scarcity will lead to a price surge. What do I mean by scarcity? I mean, the algorithm that Bitcoin is built on limits the amount of Bitcoin that can ever be mined to 21 million Bitcoin. Now, what if 21 million people each held one Bitcoin? What do you think would happen to the price? Now, there's only about 18,500,000 Bitcoin been mined to date. Most estimates say about 2 million Bitcoin have been lost in the early days of Bitcoin. When it was saved in hard drive wallets and hard drives crashed, or people didn't know how to keep recovery seeder keys in the learning years. Now, it's a lot easier to use Bitcoin today. Those things don't happen unless you're very, very careless. So what we'll say is about 17 million Bitcoin, 16.5 million Bitcoin in existence. What happens if 16.5 million people each hold a Bitcoin? Think about it. Right now, it's estimated that hedge funds are holding about $2 trillion worth of Bitcoin. Now, number three, there's a Bitcoin halving coming up in May of 2020. What's a halving? Every 4 years, the difficulty of mining Bitcoin doubles. Another way to put it is a Bitcoin miner gets paid a block reward for mining Bitcoin. Now, for the last 4 years, that block reward has been 12.5 Bitcoin. In May of this year, May of 2020, that block reward is cut in half to 6.25 Bitcoin. So the miners are getting paid half as much Bitcoin for doing the same work. Their hardware costs remain the same. Their electrical costs, their electricity costs remain the same. Their maintenance costs remain the same, but they're getting paid half the block reward. Do you think those miners are going to be willing to sell their Bitcoin for the same price that they're selling it today? Traditionally, the year following a Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin makes a new high. How high will that high be? Well, I hope John McAfee's right. Number four, if you haven't checked, several states, maybe your state, allows you to pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Yes, governments are holding Bitcoin. And number five, a global recession is predicted for this year. Now, I put this PowerPoint together, a couple months ago before the coronavirus thing. But right now, guys, it looks like we're going into a global recession. So typically in a recession, what happens is money flees from the stock market and it goes to more secure safe havens. Traditionally, government bonds, precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, and Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been called digital gold. So how much Bitcoin do you want? People ask me all the time, when's the best time to buy a Bitcoin? Well, the best time was back here in 2009. You could buy Bitcoin for, a few cents. In fact, if you would have taken $1,000 and bought Bitcoin back there at 5 cents a Bitcoin, I know guys who had a chance to do it. I heard about it, but I wasn't, didn't have the education. If you would have spent $1,000 in 2009, it would be worth $100 million today. $100 million. So when's the best time to buy a Bitcoin? Well, right now, Italy's on lockdown. I just heard that California was locked down today. Everybody in the state was quarantined. Yesterday, Dow futures dropped 100 points and they stopped the market. Today, they stopped it again and plunged 1,800 points. I mean, you take a look. They're calling this the coronavirus crash of 2020. And you look at it right here. This is the coronavirus crash of 2020. Now, this is the Wall Street crash of 1929. Do you see any similarities here, guys? I'm just going to clear that off. Take a look at Bitcoin, guys. Today, March 19th, 2020. What happened to Bitcoin? It broke through resistance. There was a resistance line right here at about 5,500. And it busted through resistance, went all the way up to 6,400 up here. In the midst of all this, the stock market record crash, chaos in all the markets worldwide. I mean, there's just nothing safe that's immune, yet Bitcoin is shooting up. And if it hits 10,500, they say it'll blow right by to 20,000 will be the next resistance level. And after that, probably 50,000. So how much Bitcoin do you want? When's the best time to buy a Bitcoin, guys? The best time was 2009. The next best time is today. Now, there's only 3 ways to acquire Bitcoin. You can buy it, you can mine it, or you can earn it. That's it, guys. There is no other way. Now, we'll talk about buying it first. If you've got the means to buy 10 Bitcoin, buy them and hold them. If you've got the means to buy 1 Bitcoin, buy it and hold it. 1 Bitcoin, if John McAfee's right, will be worth $2 million by the end of the year. If Tim Draper is right, it'll be worth $250,000 in 2 years. I mean, what better investment could you ever dream of? Most people right now, especially in this economy, can only afford to buy a small portion of a Bitcoin. So we're going to cross that out as a way to acquire a lot of Bitcoin. See, our goal here is to help people become financially independent and do it without all the stress and licenses and everything else. So the second way to get Bitcoin is to mine it. Now, this is a picture of my basement, a portion of my basement I had walled off, put in a foot of insulation in the walls because it was cooking us out of our house. This is just one rack of miners in my basement. I set these miners up the first rack, and all of a sudden the house goes dark. Blew out my fuse box. My wife came running down asking what the heck I was doing. I called up the electrician. He came out the next day. He put his hand on the fuse box in my garage, and it was hot. And he put his tester on there. He said, "This is a 100 amp fuse box, and you're running 110 amps to it." He said, "That's not good." What he did was he got a permit, and he took a backhoe and he tore up. I live in a subdivision. He tore up my neighbor's yard. He tore up my yard. He ran some high voltage lines in, and he set up a 200 amp service in my mining room, plus my 100 amp service in my garage. I went to mining, and there's a little green transformer in every neighborhood. Each transformer takes care of a block. Well, the next mishap we had was that transformer made a flash, and the whole neighborhood went black. So it brought out a crane and exchanged it out on the truck. Plus, I had to replant the grass in my neighbor's yard. And here's the sad part. These miners are all sitting idle in my basement right now. I've got about $100,000 worth of mining equipment, and you can make a deal with me. I mean, call me up if you want them. I'll sell them for pennies on a dollar. You can. It's cheaper to buy cryptocurrency than it is to mine it right now. Unless you can get your electricity for about 2 cents a kilowatt hour, and you've got up-to-date, most modern mining equipment possible, you're going to lose money unless you're banking on the price going up later, and you've got enough cash reserves to weather the storm until, Bitcoin hits, 50,000 or better. The guys that are making it mining with the big mining farms, they're getting their electricity for less than 2 cents. I was paying 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour residential rate. So I couldn't make it happen. If anybody comes to you and says, "We've got an opportunity to invest in a mining program, just give us your money and we'll pay you a high percent of return," run for the hills, guys. They're lying to you. They're going to scam you out of your money. So we're going to cross out mining. I didn't mean to spend that much time on it, but let's go ahead and
Well,
cross mining
Joy,
off the list.
it'll probably work for you to melt that down and get more out of it.
Yeah. That leaves us, guys, to the third way to acquire Bitcoin, and that's earn it. We can earn Bitcoin. That's what the Satoshi show is all about. Take a look down here. Earning Bitcoin. We have programs in place. That's what we are. We're a research firm. We research opportunities. We research programs. We do the legwork. Now, we're not suggesting you don't do the same legwork, but we have a lot of passive programs that can make a lot of Bitcoin over a short period of time. We've got active Bitcoins. If you don't have the investment money to get in these programs, we have programs that you can get in for as little as $100. Do the work, share the programs with other people. The affiliate programs are incredible, and you can make that big pile of Bitcoin. This is a great, cheap franchise. People are always looking at franchises. A McDonald's franchise is about $500,000. We can show you how to open a free franchise and make just as much as you would with a McDonald's franchise. It's possible. We've done it. We've done it. Go ahead, David, wrap this thing up.
And you could do it from your comfort of your own home. So if, right now, if you bought a McDonald's franchise, you still can't open the doors with the coronavirus.
Ah,
If you want to find out any of the programs, like Troy says, go to the satoshishow.com, and we have it up at the top there or in the middle of the page. There's some programs, and then we also have a menu that says current programs. With all that said, I'd like to thank you all for joining the Satoshi Show. Our show, we always have a show on Wednesday night, so we can show you some of those programs. We highlight some of the programs that are on there. And then on Saturdays, we show you how to build a team for those programs. So again, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on Saturdays at 12 noon Eastern Time.
Right on, guys. And feel free to poke around the site. You'll see some webinars we've recorded at the top. There'll be links, and some of the opportunities that we're recommending are at the bottom of the site. So feel free to poke around, look around. Feel free to call us. I mean, we're there. Our phone numbers are on the site. We're not hard to find. So this is what we do, and we're here to serve.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining the Satoshi Show. Bye-bye.